Folks, something I have come to realize is I believe 2023, specifically spring 2023, is probably hardest, roughest market for first-time home buyers. We are seeing inventory down. We're seeing lack of new listings where the move-up buyers not doing their thing, and it's creating all of this noise. Plus, there's investors and institutions all trying to gobble up cash flow. It's tough out there. So I thought what we should do is bring on Beth Traverso, a top 1% agent in the country, and just brainstorm, talk about what
Yeah.
first-time home buyers might think about. So Beth, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great, Michael. Thank you so much for having me back here with you and everybody this week.
Yeah, the
I
audience
love
loves you.
first-time home buyers. So helping first-time home buyers buy a home is one of the most satisfying things that somebody like me or a real estate agent can do. So, and what I want to give people is hope. So do not be discouraged, first-time home buyers, and feel like somehow it can't be done for you because that's what everybody's saying out there. It can. It's always been challenging. The challenges vary, but you can do it. So that's the takeaway I want people to have. And so, one of the things I want to mention too is like this is a hard time, but I would I would say that last year, if I may put that out there, was way
Sure.
harder. This time
Mm,
last year, way harder for a first-time home buyer. So
okay.
I'm gonna
Oh,
respectfully disagree with
you know
2023
what?
being the worst.
I actually, you're right. First-time home buyers were ignored. If you came in with a VA or FHA loan a year ago, you weren't even considered. So I stand corrected. You are
Yes.
absolutely right.
So the
You're right.
formula last year it was you had to be escalate 20 to 30% over list price, waive every single contingency there is to waive, and you had to release a huge non-refundable earnest money, not to escrow, the third party that holds the funds, but to the seller. They get your money before closing. That was crazy. And that's
Right.
not happening now. I mean, there's some places out there maybe where that is happening. It's not happening in my area, which is the greater Seattle area. It's much, much more balanced. So
Awesome.
if first time home buyers that were buying last year, a lot of them, what they had to do was if they're fortunate enough to have a family member that had cash, grandma, mom, somebody can pull from a line of credit or gift them some money, loan them money temporarily to buy cash so they can compete with all these other people and then do a refi after the fact to pay mom or grandma back or however that works, so but not everybody's has those kind of well-heeled relatives that can afford to do that, so and then those people that couldn't really were just they got discouraged because they were clobbered so bad so many
Mhm.
times, and so um that was very demoralizing. It was hard to keep spirits up with that going on. So, but we're in a different market now. Now, granted, rates were approximately half what they are today back then. So that's the trade-off. But now you don't have to escalate 30% over. You don't have to waive all of your inspections and financing and everything else. You don't have to give $50,000 non-refundable directly to the seller, before closing. Like you don't have to do those things. It's much more good old fashioned real estate where there can be an exchange, there can be a negotiation. Now, that being said, with the inventory as low as it is, hot new listings are going to still be hot new listings, and you're going to have to follow the advice of your agent to be coachable to see if it's worth jumping into that fray and if that's the one how you want to go with it. And then decide where you're willing to let it go. I think it's very important when you're competing as a buyer to be very clear in advance at where you're willing to let it go, and then let it go if it goes to. It's very easy to get wrapped up in that auction mentality and do things that maybe aren't wise. So, but as long as you set your limits ahead of time, I'm willing to go up to this price and I'm willing to do these things under the advice of and the guidance of your agent, then you can do it. So it's not some people, wants I will never do a bidding war. Well, I would say it depends. Depends on the bidding war and the dynamics of that bidding war. Sometimes you still can find the right house or right deal. So
Yeah.
but I think this is a great time for first time home buyers to get in and especially if they're going to do a house hack or something where you can offset, like the interest rates are a little bit higher, but if you can make an ADU in the basement or something like that. You don't want to share walls. I understand that. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I don't like to share my space with others, you know. So um when I was house hacking, that's how I did it. I have as a single person and didn't want some other person in my space. And we just built out a little apartment in the basement, let that
Yep.
rent help
Yep.
compensate the difference in payment. So um, is it hard? Yes. Is it always hard? I'm gonna say, yeah, it's always
Yeah.
kind of hard, you know. The
Yeah.
hard what's hard is what's moving around and changing. So
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things that I would put out to the first time home buyer is I don't know that a lot of them know that the programs that are out there in their state or city. I think there's a lot more first time homebuyer programs than most people know. And I don't pretend to know what they are because, again, they're very state and sometimes city
right. Mhm.
based. But one of the stories in my second book, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires, is actually Meet Kevin. I
All right.
interviewed Meet Kevin one time
Mhm.
and we talked about how he got started. And he doesn't talk about this stuff anymore, but he took out a 203K loan, right?
Yeah.
The Meet Kevin that we all see on YouTube today starts with a 203K loan. And I think he had like 9 grand or 15 grand or something from Jamba Juice, right? His early
Right.
story is not highlighted enough.
I
I
love
think
that.
there are ways you can get started,
Hmm.
and I don't think the average new home buyer does enough research just to see what programs are out there. I know that's
Yeah,
a blanket statement, but
the 203K is a great example, and there's also conventional rehab loans too. So 203K, for people that don't know, is basically you get to borrow, you take an unfinanceable house typically, but it doesn't have to be unfinanceable. It could be anything,
yeah,
and you get your rehab budget wrapped into your loan, so you can
correct.
purchase and do the rehab in one loan. And for people that aren't investors with access to large amounts of cash, that can be a great way to buy a fixer and
Mhm.
get that started. So, um, those buyers often are competing with investors on those kinds of loans. And sometimes it can be tough because if one of them is paying cash to flip it.
Mhm.
So, I would say the sweet spot on those first time home buyers is find the ones that are priced so they don't really make sense as a flip, but they could make sense for you to live in as maybe a house hack or something, an owner
Absolutely.
occupant.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, but that brings up another good point, Mike, and that's if you can look for the ones that are a little bit ugly, those are the best houses for first time home buyers. People have gotten spoiled by, you know, the HGTV shows and just the media out there about real estate has gotten so prevalent that I think expectations for first homes has gotten so high that it's almost not really realistic. You know, like my first house, I there wasn't 1 square inch inside or out that didn't need something, you know, from the red shag carpet to the leaky roof to I mean everything, the octopus furnace in the basement that was covered in asbestos, all the stuff that was on there, like dealt with it all. It can all be dealt with, but I was just so happy just to have my own home. I was thrilled. So, you know, I think just like adjust your standards accordingly, or you might not be able to be right in the hippest part of town. It's like the place where everybody wants to be. Work your way up to that. You can
Yeah.
start somewhere a little further out. The best first homes are, I think, ones that are qualify as a rental later. So that's how I started. That's how my husband and other investor friends of mine started. You buy a house, owner occupied, fix it up, move out, rent it, you know, and then buy another one as another your next owner occupant, and then turn that into a rental. And you can just that's a great way to slowly accumulate rental properties and also take advantage of the owner occupant advantages you get for financing.
The last thing I want to tell first time home buyers is I don't know why this happens, but it happens all the time. Every city has a season, right? Where when stuff is hot. I personally don't like buying in those seasons. For example, in my market, November and December is cold. So what did I do? I bought two great deals, 30% below list price on in November and December.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ask your agents, when is it cold? And maybe if you're in Seattle or King County, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's July and August.
Yeah.
You know what? Go hard in July and August
Mhm.
and see what's going on. Don't go hard when everybody else is shopping. Go hard when people are on vacation. I
Yeah.
would try to figure out when the seasonality is. And I would go extra hard then. Don't be like everybody else. I always want to be a contrarian and go the other direction. I hate being in crowds. I still hate being in crowds to this day,
Yeah.
whether it's physical or virtual. It's
Hmm.
crazy.
I agree, and that's a really, really good point. So, you can look at the chart, and there's always the up and down that happens with the seasonality. So you can look and see what that is in your market. But I know for us, you're right. July, August, slow. Prices dip during that time, and then they bump a little bit in the fall, and then they go down for the holidays, and that's our seasonality. And it just always seems to follow that pattern. So,
That's
um,
when I'd be shopping.
mhm. And especially around Christmas time, love it.
Yes,
That's the
exactly.
best time because everyone's distracted and waiting, they're
Yeah.
waiting till after the holidays. And if you're able to come in there, you don't have to move during the holidays. You
Oh,
can just close and move in January if you want
okay.
to. Get it locked up now, close in January. Great point.
Yeah. And then the last thing I think is the last point, and again, it goes back to what I tell investors is you need to get your buy box as a home buyer and tell everyone. The
Yeah.
fact that you only tell your agent is a mistake. In fact,
Right.
I would in this highly competitive market, I would be going to real estate meetups. I'd be telling wholesalers, I'd be telling everybody I could, I want to buy a 3 or 4 bedroom in this zip code that looks like this. If you find one, call me first. Get a pocket listing, get a wholesale deal,
Yeah.
find a way. Tell everybody, stop relying on one agent.
Yeah. One agent or just the MLS in general. So you can go to your community. You can even go super old school if you want and just post something on the bulletin board somewhere at the coffee shop or post office or
Everybody.
something. I'm looking for a house in this area and a tiny bit about you and your phone number. And like people will reach out. And where I am it's a very small community within a larger area. And there's a lot of word of mouth with that. And so I have a lot of people coming to me like my mom, my aunt, my friends looking to move into this area. They can't find anything. Do you have anything coming up?
Yep.
Just talking to the neighbors and getting that going. Facebook groups are great for that too. People will just
Yeah.
post on Facebook, I'm looking to buy a house and outline your buy box. I'm looking for this in these areas. Does anybody know anything coming up on the market? And then people will come forward. Hey, we're getting ready to list our house. Maybe we should talk. I see it all the time.
Me
So,
too. Me too.
mhm.
Yep. Again, folks, if you want to buy or sell in Kings County, Seattle, Beth is your person. But more importantly, there are 50 states and Beth's tentacles reach across
Yeah.
all of them. If you want a referral to the best of the best, she can get it done. How should they do that?
Thank you, Michael. So people can find me real easy at bethtraversogroup.com or reach out to me through the One Rental at a Time Facebook group or just Google me. I'm out there.
There you
Happy
go.
to
Thank you
connect
so
with
much.
people.